It's been a rough few years to be a UFC fan. You tune in on a Saturday night and instead of getting hyped, you'd almost brace yourself for another heartbreak. Volkanovski, one of the most beloved fighters on the roster, got knocked out in back-to-back fights.
Is he turning around too fast, right? There was the knockout 4 months ago. Is there a physical element? Is there something that's going to take that factor?
You can't take anything away from
We witnessed Charles Oliveira out cold.
Oh, nasty right. Charles is down. He's out. He's cold. He's dead.
No! I can't take this shit no more.
Jiri's chaos and unpredictability stopped working.
Only one thing goes on my mind. I need to evolve or don't fight again.
Max Holloway, who had never been dropped in his career, suffered his first KO loss. Alex Pereira's story seemed like it was done, and even guys like Derek Lewis were getting finished left and right. It felt like every month, one of the fighters we grew up watching was falling. And as a fan, that does something to you. Obviously, this part of the sport is inevitable. It happens, and always will. But it makes you realize that the era you loved might be coming to an end. But this year, 2025, something changed. The same fighters we thought were done started coming back. They started winning again, and not just winning, fighting like their old selves. That's why I say it feels like the UFC is healing. The sport feels alive again. And this is how it started.
The fighting business is one of my favorite new channels going right now.
Thank you to the fighting business. Absolutely amazing.
By early 2025, being a UFC fan slowly started to feel good again. Not because the sport had changed, but because the fighters we'd grown up watching started reminding us who they really were. The last few years had been rough on a lot of them. Max Holloway got knocked out by Ilia Topuria, the first knockout loss of his entire career. For a fighter who built his name on durability and heart, seeing him fall like that hurt. Paulo Costa had barely fought in years, and when he did, he looked flat, especially in that loss to Sean Strickland, which made a lot of fans question if Prime Paulo was gone. Derek Lewis was 1-4 to start 2024, and it looked like his career was over. Kamaru Usman went from #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world to relatively irrelevant in a few months. And Brandon Moreno, the kid everyone loved, had lost his belt to Pantoja and another close one to Royval.
Estoy en un punto de mi vida donde siento que estoy haciendo el trabajo, siento que estoy dedicándome 100% al entrenamiento, al gimnasio, pero los resultados no se están dando y eso es muy frustrante.
Volkanovski suffered back-to-back knockout losses and started 2025 1-3 in his last 4. It was like every month, another fan favorite fell. One by one, the guys who made this era so special started to fade. But this year, it's been different. Something in the air changed. You turn on a card and suddenly, these same names, the ones we thought were done, started showing flashes of their old selves again. Max Holloway looked sharper than ever when he finally got his revenge on Dustin Poirier at UFC 318.
All I'm gonna say, a lot of coming after this BMF belt. Come get me.
On the same card, Paulo Costa showed up looking like the old Paulo again. Derek Lewis is now on a win streak in the big 2025. This is real life. Kamaru Usman reminded Buckley why he was #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world for over 3 years.
You know, I know it's a running joke. Everybody want to get on the internet and talk. Oh, his knees. Well, shut the up. I can still do what I do.
Volkanovski is once again featherweight champion of the world, and Brandon Moreno is also back on a win streak. When you put all that together, it finally felt like things were clicking again. The new faces kept rising, but the familiar ones weren't disappearing. Their story wasn't done, and as fight fans, it made it fun to watch again. But that was only the spark. What came next felt like the confirmation that this little shift in energy wasn't just a coincidence, it was real. Jiri Procházka was the first to show it. After 2 brutal knockout losses to Alex Pereira, most people thought the magic was gone, that his wild, unpredictable style had finally hit his limits. But Jiri doesn't reinvent himself. He doubles down. After finishing Jamal Hill, he went on to give us a Fight of the Year contender against Khalil Rountree, the type of fight that looks more like a movie than a real-life event. See, when I say we got Jiri back, it's not just because he won, but it's also how he did it. He was getting beat up for 10 minutes and just decided to lock in. It's probably not a conscious decision that Jiri makes, but it just happens, always.
Because my coaches told me like, man, you have to win this round. And then I started to realize how to do that.
And you can sense when he enters that flow. That's vintage Jiri. He fights like every second could be his last, and seeing him win that way again reminded fans that the sport still has room for madness, the kind that can't be coached or calculated. On the other side of that same coin, you've got Alex Pereira, the complete opposite of Jiri in almost every way. Jiri's chaos, Alex is calm. After losing his belt to Magomed Ankalaev, people started talking like the mystique was gone. You know, like maybe Pereira's reign had already peaked, like that mythical aura was starting to fade. But Pereira doesn't chase hype, he doesn't talk, he just shows up. And when he came back and reclaimed gold in under 90 seconds, it felt like balance had been restored, not because he was flashy or loud, but because he reminded everyone what pure composure looks like inside a cage. No panic, no emotion, just a guy who believes in his own skill set more than anyone else in the world. That's Pereira, a stone-cold technician who doesn't just fight to win, he fights to prove a point. And after everything, he did exactly that. For a guy who barely speaks English and doesn't even try to sell himself, Pereira built a huge following. And funny enough, the only person who might have an even bigger one is another Brazilian just like him. If Jiri brings the chaos and Pereira brings the control, Charles brings the heart. And this is probably why Charles is so beloved. After that brutal knockout loss to Ilia Topuria, one of those knockouts that make your stomach drop, it felt like the end of something. It wasn't just a loss, it was violent, sudden, and final. And for a guy like Charles, who built his career on surviving chaos, seeing him go out like that hurt. And honestly, most of us kind of accepted it. Not because we wanted to, but because we've seen how this story usually goes.
I don't know if I favor Charles Oliveira on this fight. Gamrot is just a basic wrestler. Yeah, you could just call him just a wrestler, but that's all you need in this damn game.
When fighters take that kind of damage, that deep, clean knockout, they don't come back the same. So when he accepted another fight only 3.5 months later in Brazil against Mateus Gamrot, most people didn't think it was a good idea. That kind of turnaround after a knockout like that, it's rare, and it usually doesn't end well. It's the kind of decision that makes you nervous even before the walkout starts. But that's Charles. He doesn't take safe fights. He doesn't take easy roads. He fights because it's who he is. And the crazy thing, he didn't just show up. He looked alive again. The pressure, the pace, the chaos, everything that makes Du Bronx who he is was back. Gamrot tried to slow him down, tried to wrestle him, and Charles just kept walking forward. Elbows, knees, wild scrambles, everything. It looked like the old Charles. And when he finally took the back and locked in that choke, that classic signature rear naked choke, it wasn't just another win. It was defiance. It was him saying, "I'm still here." You could feel it through the screen. The crowd in Brazil knew what they were watching, not just a comeback, but a man refusing to fade quietly. Charles reminded everyone that you can't measure a fighter by age or by losses or by logic, because some people are just built for this, and he's one of them. What's made this year so special is that it isn't just one story, it's a wave. From Max Holloway showing vintage form to Paulo Costa, Derek Lewis, and others reminding us they've still got fire. 2025 has felt like a quiet resurgence of everything fans have been missing. These are the fighters we grew up watching, the ones whose wins feel personal, and suddenly, they're not fading into the background. They're stealing the spotlight again. But what really sealed it were the ones who carried that momentum further. Jiri Procházka bringing back the chaos, Alex Pereira bringing back the mastery, and Charles Oliveira bringing back the heart. Different style, different stories, but one message. The legends aren't done. The old guard still has something to say. And as fans, it just feels good to listen.
It's good to be back for everyone watching. Hey, adversity is a privilege. You hear people talk about that all the time. It truly is. This moment is incredible.